it is really easy to speak about both sides showing restraints, but rockets are flying into our cities. The last rocket that landed in Israel, it landed in my community where I live in Israel, 100 feet from my house, from where I raise my children. So it's comfortable to come and speak about, let's speak about ideas, implementations. But once rockets are flying into our cities, we will defend our people. That is the first thing we will do. And then we will talk. And we'll continue to have a dialogue. But the first thing we are committed to do is to defend our people, to defend our children who last night had to sleep in shelters because of the rockets that came from Gaza. And for us, we are determined to do whatever is necessary to protect our people, even if it means to bury the leaders of Hamas in the tunnels of Gaza. And I want to challenge you. Next month, you will preside over the Security Council. So we should have maybe a closed session without the cameras. You call both sides. We can leave the statements in our missions and come here and talk. We are here to talk. We will continue to defend our people, but at the same time, we are here to talk. Mr. President, on Monday, March 25th at 5 a.m., Hamas fired a long-range rocket from Gaza into Israel. The rocket traveled over 120 kilometers past Tel Aviv and landed directly on a private home in the farming community of Mishmeret. The home was completely destroyed. Neighboring houses and cars sustained damage, and 7 civilians, including a grandmother, her baby, grandchild, and 2 children, were injured. This was an act of terror for which the Hamas terrorist organization is responsible. Hamas terrorists manufactured this long-range rocket, filling it with steel bullets and metal fragments to maximize the damage. They fired it from the center of a Palestinian civilian area in Rafah, and they sent it into a civilian area populated by families in Israel. On either side, and from start to finish, Hamas placed innocent people deliberately in the line of fire, making it guilty of a double war crime. Throughout the day, Hamas continued to fire over 130 rockets into Israel. In response to these sustained terrorist attacks, Israel took swift action, targeting Hamas military infrastructure in Gaza. Israel will continue to act forcefully so long as these attacks continue. Mr. President, for 12 years since 2007, Hamas has fired over 12,000 rockets and mortars into Israel, 1,000 rockets and mortars per year, launched from civilian areas into civilian areas. Hamas' stated goal in firing rockets and mortars into Israel is to destroy my country. But Hamas's other goal is to distract the world, all of us, the world's attention from its oppressive rule of Gaza. Over the past week, Hamas arrested, beat up, and shot at Palestinian protesters demonstrating against the terrorist regime. You didn't see it on CNN, BBC, you don't hear about it. But they were killing people on the streets of Gaza. We didn't hear nothing from UNRWA. We heard nothing from the so-called UN Human Rights Council, which did not even mention Hamas in its recent Commission of Inquiry report, along with Agenda Item 7. Instead, it blamed Israel for all of the ills in Gaza. These bodies simply reaffirmed what has always been true. For the UN, all people deserve human rights, except for the people of Israel. And it is the Palestinian people in Gaza who pay the heavy price for the crimes of their leadership. Not here, but ask the Palestinian representative, what he really thinks about Hamas regime in Gaza, about the way they handle the Palestinian people in Gaza. Mr. President, we have entered a new reality. Hamas has gained the ability to launch long-range rockets deep into Israel, past Tel Aviv, and into Mishmeret. For me, this terror attack on Mishmeret, where the last rocket landed, it's too close to home, because Mishmeret is my place of residence. It is where my family lives, and where I raise my children. I know the family whose home was it, and my house is only a few hundred feet away. Imagine if a rocket was fired at your home. Think about it, targeting your kids. Now imagine if the terrorists that launched the attack said it was an accident, as Hamas did. You would never accept it. You would not think twice about taking action. Just think about a rocket in Paris, in Lima, in Berlin, in all of the capitals. If a rocket would land tomorrow morning, and somebody would say, no, it was an accident. You would put your people first, and you would likely have the support of this body behind you. So let me be very clear. Monday's events were no accident. Hamas committed a heinous crime against Israel, a deliberate and direct act of terror against our people, just like every one of the 12,000 attacks before it. And we will not hesitate to take action. Mr. President, Israel's expectations of the international community are twofold. For the Security Council to issue a clear condemnation and a prompt designation. The UN must condemn Hamas and its terrorism against Israel unequivocally. The Security Council must designate Hamas as a terrorist organization. 12,000 rockets and mortars should be enough evidence to warrant such a designation. Some countries will claim, and we heard it in the last hour, will claim the moral high ground by telling Israel to exercise maximum restraint. They will try to rationalize the attack with the argument of both sides. I don't see both sides. I see a terror organization, and I see a country that's defending its people. Make no mistake, we will not accept a reality in which our children become targets of Hamas. We are determined to protect our people. If these terror attacks continue, the leaders of Hamas will feel the might of the IDF and will be buried in the tunnels of Gaza. I thank you.
Je remercie le représentant d'Israël.
I thank the representative of Israel for his statement. The representative of Germany has asked for the floor to make a further statement. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Very briefly, I thank both the Palestinian and the Israeli representatives for partially responding to my request to put aside their speaking notes. But I regret that both of them didn't respond to the questions I put. Can't you say to the Palestinian, how do you plan to stop the incitement, the provocations, and the inflammatory rhetoric, and what do you do to stop that the rockets fall on the Israelis? And from our Israeli colleague, I didn't hear one sort of how you want to implement 2334 with regard to the settlement, or what do you do, what you plan to do so that the crisis that we are reading about Haram al-Sharif is stopped and you negotiate with the Jordanians so that there is a... You both said basically the same. You said as long as, I interpret you, as long as the children in your city or your village where you grew up cannot sleep in silence and be safe of Palestinian Hamas rockets, you cannot you cannot respond to implementing 2334. And you said the same thing. As long as Palestinian children cannot be sure that the next morning when they wake up there are not bulldozers in front of their house to tear the house down, you have to read your statement. So we actually on substance didn't make progress, but I wanted to take up the Israeli proposal, and I'm very happy in view of the German presidency or the German part of the joint German-French presidencies to pick up with my colleagues your idea of having an informal meeting of members of Security Council with Israeli and Palestinians in closed doors so that maybe we can prolong the debate. Thank you.
Je remercie.
I thank the representative of Germany for his statement. The permanent observer of the state of Palestine, the observer state of Palestine, has requested the floor. You have the floor.
I apologize for taking the floor again, Mr. President. But with regard to incitement, which we believe it is coming from the other side. But if you think that it is coming from our side, we accept the following proposals. One, form a commission from the Security Council to observe our behavior and the behavior of the other side. And whatever you decide in advance, I tell you we accept. Observe our conduct. Don't trust what we say or trust what they say. You are a third party. Let the Security Council build a commission, review our educational books, or if you don't want to, authorize the UNESCO to do the same thing so that we can get to the bottom of this so-called provocation and incitement. I don't claim that we are a group of angels. We're not. We're human beings. But in order to resolve this puzzle, let us have a credible third party to come and to evaluate our conduct and our curriculum and the conduct and the curriculum of the other side. So that is to deal with the first question that you raised. With regard to the rockets, we welcome a commission to be established by you since you are, responsible for the maintenance of international peace and security. Be stationed on the Gaza side, on the Israeli side, in Al Khalil, in East Jerusalem, and see our conduct and their conduct. Try to be a deterrent element so that nobody to conduct their behavior in violation of international law. It cannot, you keep talking to us and you see the problem. Assume your responsibility, act. Who is going to stop you from observing the situation? You say that I want to have a special commission or a special body that you form to see who is violating international law, including all the behaviors that you mentioned, including rockets. So these are ideas. I hope that my colleagues in the Security Council to consider them seriously so that we don't remain in the internal cycle of asking us to do something and you think we're not doing it, asking them to do something and they're not doing it. Step up to the plate. You are an objective party. And whatever decision you make, it should be the most objective decision because you are responsible for the maintenance of international peace and security, and you are supposed to be also defenders of international law. I tell you here, on behalf of the Palestinian people and their leadership, we accept any proposal of such kind, and if you are mighty enough and powerful enough, see if the other side would accept such proposals. And by the way, I accept not to have a discussion without statements, but I don't want it to be in closed doors. I want the whole world to see the conduct of all of us. It has to be televised in all corners of the globe. If the idea not to read statements, I accept. If the idea to have discussion, very frank discussion in the Security Council, I accept, but let it be aired to all corners of the globe. Let the whole world see who is trying to work with you to open doors for peace and who is obstructionist and trying to, block doors for peace. Thank you.
Je remercie
I thank the permanent observer of the Observer State of Palestine for his statement. The representative of Israel has asked for the floor to make a further statement. You have the floor.
Unfortunately, you see what we are dealing with. You can have another commission, another resolution, another empty debate. At the end, in order to have a sustainable negotiation, you need to speak directly, both sides. And that's what we did with Egypt. And today, we actually celebrate the peace agreement that we signed with Egypt 40 years ago. But we found a real partner. Anwar Sadat came to Jerusalem. He said, I recognize Israel. I'm sitting with you and I'm negotiating with you. So yes, we can have another committee. We are not against the commission to check the incitement. We know the facts. I showed you the books here in the Security Council. You can check the budget of the PA. 7% goes to pay families of terrorists, and they don't deny it. Mr. Mladenov is here. He can come and give the reports about the textbooks in Israel and in the PA, about payments, paying salaries for terrorists, but we are not against any commission. But eventually, in order to move forward, is to have a real direct negotiations. This is the only way to move forward. I thank you.
Je remercie
I thank the representative of Israel for his statement. In these limited but non-scripted exchanges, I can see a positive element. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers, nor requests for the floor. I now invite council members to informal consultations to continue our discussion on the subject. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.